Welcome to the Liberation Lab podcast, insights and interviews for the disruptive educator. I am honored, y'all, to have my guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself. So, why don't you tell the people who you are, what you do, and why you do it?
I'm Evette Rawls, founder and creator of Teacher Coach Series. I am an educator now, actively been a middle school teacher in the role of ELA teacher for the last 23 years. And as equally, I am honored to be here just to talk about some of the journey and my experiences and what it has involved too.
Awesome. Awesome. So, middle school, that has been my journey as well. I've served my entire 16-year career in middle school, um, and I've been on the math side. And so, you ever seen that meme where it's like elementary school and it's like this picture or this clip of I forget Elton John in the car with the feathers on his and then it goes to middle school and it's like the 300 where Spartans kicking people like
Right.
that's been my experience too. Like we have to have like a special type of gifting to be in middle school. You know what I mean? So
Everybody's not called there. Everybody's not called
yes,
there. We shaping them and making them in there and making ourselves as well.
absolutely, absolutely. So I'd imagine in 20, you said 23, right?
Yeah, so I started as a sub, a full-time sub, actually at a school that my youngest starter, who's a senior in college now, I mean, oldest starter, who's a senior in college right now. They needed a sub, and I was offered the opportunity to come in, and so that was an elementary school setting. That was in 2000, had to be like 2001, 23, 20, I can't remember the year, but
It's all right. It's all right.
I went into the school. We had Miss Desmond she was having a baby, and I went in, and the principal, who is amazing, I still remember her to this day, asked me to come in. She was like, "You should be a teacher," and I was like, "No, I'm being a historian." I just knew it. I was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was different, a lot different, but a lot of similarities too.
When you think back and knowing who you are now, when you first walk into the classroom as that sub, long-term sub, when you first walk into the classroom, when you are officially appointed for your first role, and you would observe, let's say you were just walking to do an observation of yourself that year, what would you have seen and what advice would you have given to yourself?
That's a beautiful question. Um, I would have what I would have seen was a lot of energy and a lot of just wanting to get the message out, just excited about being in the field. And so trying to figure it out. The relationships always have been there, but the relationships with the students, the structure always in place. But as far as let's talk about the appearance of it and then the culture of it, right? So
Hmm.
the appearance of it would, to me, right now, who I am, a mess. It was just a lot. I could see I probably just had too much. Like I probably would have kept it very, very simple and a minimalist, but that's the life that I have now. Just very I try to declutter everything. So I probably wouldn't have had as many of the things that I had happening. To
Hmm.
have more of an impact. Sometimes you find that one thing that's really, really good, and then you really, really drill that instead of trying to do all the things sometimes that
Yes.
sure. But you're not as confident when you first start. So when people are giving you things, you're like, oh, okay, so I can use that, I can use that, and you're trying to figure it out. But as you balance out, I say, and that usually comes about that fourth or fifth year in education. Not only are you more confident in who you are, you're more confident in the content, but you're also confident in what you know how to do as far as like just being you, what it looks like to operate in whatever it is that you're called to do, whether it's math or ELA. So I think to me it would be like organized chaos. Now you
Yeah.
come in and you're like, oh wow, oh yes, I know exactly what's going on. Where before you probably would have had to ask a lot of questions like, well, what are they? What are they? They're definitely working, but it's a lot that they're working on.
Yeah.
But that comes like when we think about middle school, sixth grade, book bags in 20 different directions on their back, walking down the hallway. By the time they get in eighth grade, they've balanced out, ready for high school. And so I probably that was my journey. That is the
Hmm.
perfect example of what it looked like.
That I think that is so key. You know, I think about my journey and the journey of so many others now being on what I on the school leadership side is like you see so many people come in and they have brought in boxes, metaphorical boxes that they've gotten from everybody, and they're trying to move all of their stuff into this room
Yeah.
called their teacher capacity. And they
Yeah.
got so many boxes that they can't unpack that they're just throwing stuff up and trying to decorate it, but it's too much for the room. And if you just simplify and hone in and develop where you are, then eventually you have more room to unpack and try and take risk. But I think we try so much so quickly because there's so much of a pressure to produce rather than grow into your craft. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I think the beautiful thing about the opportunity that you have as a leader is that you're able to see that. And and being in the middle school, and we're using that analogy of the middle school transition, how you go from, coming from elementary and all the classes in one classroom, right? And all the
Yeah.
things that's happening from, because that I had the experience of teaching that last year, elementary side, and I was like, whoa, 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 what is happening? Just all the things that an elementary school teacher has to do, and then think about a middle schooler and trying to balance that out as a student. Now let that be the teacher, being an administrator, seeing that, giving that teacher that grace, and also giving that room. Because a good manager is a person that allows people to make mistakes, right? And so to
Yes.
give them that room to say, huh, see the potential. They'll balance out soon. And then when it doesn't, but still giving those pointers to say, you don't have to do all the things, if you just do the one thing. And if you have those mentors or those voices that are around to guide them in that way, still letting them be themselves, because I know that my evolution came from those people that were not afraid or just had the right way of saying, yeah, okay, you got a lot going on, but I see what you're doing, and just,
Yeah.
I think just watching them and then being an educator that wanted to evolve. And I had people that I wanted to emulate, whether that was from who my teachers were or just teachers that I came up in contact with that were retired, or whatever communities that I was involved in. And I saw those seasoned women, and I was like, how did they gain that? My mom was really, really influential in my life. And now that I reflect back that she's passed on a transition, and I reflect really how she carried herself, and I want to do that every single day. So it's just the impact of who you have in your circle as the mentor, and who is talking to you, and who you want to emulate, because that plays a huge role in how you show up every day in the classroom too.
Yes. I think often we concentrate so much on the what that we forget the who.
That's
And
good.
what you do is great. Yes, you educate, but all of that hinges on the hub of who you are and how you show up and recognizing the strengths, the abilities, the biases, stereotypes, all the things that come with who you are can help elevate or make a mess of what you do.
That's
Um,
good. And
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 I, please,
in that room with when identifying who you are, and I'm going to do it because I mean I have it. It's a resource I created about 5 years ago, in identifying your why. We talk about remember your why, remember your why. Well, I
yeah,
find out there's a lot of people that don't know their why. A lot of people don't know their core values. A lot of people have not identified what motivates them when all the factors, the outside factors, are out there. What is that intrinsic motivation that keeps you going? If we had to have classroom outside with just the sand, I mean, I hope not ever. But if we had to use the dirt and write in the dirt, how are you going to keep going teaching whatever skill that needs to be taught? And so that's that intrinsic motivation. And when you have those people that know their core of who I am, they have identified their why, who
yeah,
I am, then you can remember your why. And so I share that resource a lot. And it's a self-assessment of 7 questions, but it takes you back to that place of saying, okay, what are my ethics? What's my core values? And sometimes people really have to dig, because they think what they do is who they are, and that's completely not it. That's why if that title is taken away, they're lost, or that position is not granted to you, you're lost, or you're crushed. Do we have disappointment? Yes, but it does not stop me in my mission or my purpose. So
that's it.
that's good.
That's it. I literally just posted that yesterday. And the idea is if you focus on your mission, you'll always have a job.
Ooh,
But if you focus on your job, you may miss your mission.
yeah.
Um, that's so good.
Mm,
So part of the the one of my distinctives, right, as a consultant, even as my leadership is when we talk about, for me, restorative practices and restorative mindsets and all those things, it comes from this idea or this knowledge that there are many educators who are using punitive discipline to try to correct students that they don't understand. And when we started having this conversation a couple weeks ago, you know, our work aligns in how we see trauma informed care, healing centered practices, and things like that. So let's dive there for a second. When we talk about trauma informed care or trauma informed education, what is it that we are trying to convey to those who are listening?
Oh, and if I could just be honest,
Please.
and I am very transparent, and I don't shy away from. I'm actually more confident in being transparent these days. Where before I would just hold back and be like, "Oh, okay." Um,
Yeah.
in what I've discovered, especially after just going through evolution, just self evolution, um, and doing research because I just did teaching through trauma, PD, and
Mm-hmm.
something that I've been doing since before the pandemic. And
Hmm.
the pandemic did bring a lot of things to the forefront, and I'm very grateful for it. But when we look at some of the research that's out there,
Yes.
look at some of the strategies that's out there when you look up what and how to make sure that you're trauma informed, and these practices and strategies and resources that they're sharing, it's being recirculated.
Mm-hmm.
The word is
Mm-hmm.
exchanged. Nothing has
Mm-hmm.
got back to the core of it. So we understand the definition of trauma, but do we truly understand what trauma looks like for different people? And the only way that we can do that is when we know what
Good.
trauma looks like for ourselves, because we should be transparent anyway, especially in the field that we're in. When I'm able to see myself in my students and my students are able to see themselves in me, and this is also just the people that we deal with every day. When we're able to see ourselves in each other, we're able to operate in a way that we apply or we give that grace or that mercy. Also, we're able to come up with a way to make sure that we can offer whatever it is that they need to the capacity that we're able to give. And so,
Mm-hmm.
not to throw shade on all the things. I know it's a buzz and it's a way that people, do what they do, the job titles that they have. But in my
Mm-hmm.
research, I'm trying to find just something to offer, to go hand in hand with some of the resources and things that I've been creating. It's a lot of things that just being recirculated with a new title. And does it?
100%.
Absolutely. Can it work? Absolutely. But if we want it to work for everyone, we got to go a little deeper. We got the shallow things, the shallow work, and the people that are healed and the people that are moving forward in this. And we have to sit in these PDs and sit there. We keep us in your thoughts and prayers. It's, it's getting
That
rough.
and we're getting back to that PD season. You know, you got to sit back in and have somebody read off a PowerPoint to you, tell you to differentiate your instruction, but go and read off the PowerPoint to every single person, um, and not realize that we're all at different areas, different levels, different understandings of how we show up in the classroom, right? And I'm saying this on the administrator side as someone who has to is mandated, right? You know, I'll say this really quickly. I I know that teachers are feeling like, well, why is admin doing certain things, or why? Sometimes, just sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes we're middle management.
Right,
We get told we got to do this thing,
right.
and therefore we have to turn it over and do it. It may not be our desire. A lot of times, it's not.
Mhm.
Just throwing that out there for my teacher community, because yeah,
And I think it's beautiful that you're transparent in that way to even share that. Although you would hope that veteran teachers and seasoned teachers would know that, when you have those seasoned teachers and veteran teachers in the building, they're able to tell the younger teachers, you know, had a situation, and I don't mind being transparent. Like I told you, we had a situation last week where some data needed to get done. We needed to get some things out there, and immediately, and I felt a little because I always try to, anyways, it's something that I'm working through. That I'm
yeah,
working. I don't just come and I'm working through it. Anyway, the situation happened, and I said, give the test tomorrow. That's not the whole problem. We don't have to have an hour-long meeting. Give the test tomorrow. If that's the desire, we know the outcome. We know that there's some check boxes that need to be checked. It's not gonna hurt anybody. It will
Mm,
aggravate and frustrate. But that's the things that we know how to navigate through. Just go ahead and change the slide deck. Go ahead and change the module. Go ahead and change this test tomorrow. And you say every week, okay, every week. Now let's coach our kids and to be able to navigate through this new change, right? How do we do that?
yeah,
And it went on, and I think some people were even shocked. They were like, well, they were very grateful, of course, but it was almost because you knew it was something that was required or being asked of. Just go with the flow. It's not going to change anything. Like we tell our students in the classroom when they're going through a emotional moment, and you say, "Hey, is this going to matter an hour from now? Is this going to matter 2 weeks from now? Is this going to matter next year? Well, take a breath. Have a seat. All right, thank you. Let's keep moving."
mm,
And that gets us in that mindset to say, just for this moment. In this moment, I will do this. In the grand scheme of things, I'm going to do this. You know.
yeah. That perspective and that shift in perspective is so key because when we talk about you know, again, being trauma informed and versus healing centered, we we put copious amounts of pressure on ourselves as educators to get it done within this deadline, to fill to make it look like shiny and new and bright and all the things. And we put so much pressure on ourselves that then we turn around and take that same pressure and put it on our students to produce because our significance is tied to their performance versus seeing them in their full humanity and recognizing, wait a minute, when I'm hungry and I'm tired, I don't even want to sit in this PD. I don't want nobody talking to me. Like, let me go do what I supposed. Let me go set up my room. I got better things to do right now. We don't even want to do it. When we sit in, and this is the other part that I hope teachers get. When
Mhm.
we sit together in a PD and somebody's in front of us, we are the worst. We talk
What?
to each other. We don't
Keep
pay attention. Oh my gosh, we send text messages to each other, looking across the room,
the
staring.
best meetings
We,
in the world. We're going to be sent.
oh my gosh. And then we turn right around and say, oh, so and so, this student is talking and not and doing all these things. And then we want to turn around and kick kids out or punish all these things for the same thing we do when we're in the room together.
Yeah.
So I want to
Yeah.
frame up this question this way.
Okay.
I'm that new educator that is trying to move all the boxes into my little room of my capacity. And now we're talking about being trauma informed. Isn't that another box? Like, aren't you asking me to move something new in? And I don't have enough capacity. Help me understand how this differs if it does.
Me,
Yeah.
and I'm in no leadership role. The only thing that I offer is what God tells me to offer on social media at this point in my life. And then if someone comes to me that crosses my path, which God has granted that to happen. And I'm grateful for those relationships. What I share with those individuals, and when He asks me to share online, it is always um, it, what you doing? Who are you? Why are you doing it? So when you look at it and you think of it as being another box. Okay, so why are we here? It's almost like that sheet of paper on the floor in
Yeah.
the hallway. Um, so I am told to make sure that I have this. So, okay, so what systems do we have in place? If I'm a mentor for you, if I'm someone on your team, we're going to make sure that we have a seamless highway that whether you show up tomorrow or you show up every day for 180 days, we have a process, we have a system. So it is very important that you have those systems in place. A new teacher that does not have that support, I would encourage them to find, whether that's through social media or just having those conversations, listen to people because you learn from everybody what to do, what not to do. If you look at somebody and say, I do not want to be that person in 5 years, or I look at that person and say, oh, I want to be that in 5 to 10 years, she's living in a way that I desire to live, then you know how to learn from them, whether it's from a distance or close, because not everybody has the capacity to welcome you into their world, and that is okay. It's nothing personal, but that goes back to who you are. Just making sure you're healed in those places, not taking anything personal, and thinking about all the boxes that we have to do when you just look at it from the outside and just look at this whole map. If we just have a whiteboard and just put everything up there, um, it's circular. It all goes together. And when you're able to look at it, how it all goes together, but when you try to, what is the word? I can't think of the word right now. But when you give something too much power that shouldn't, when you just know how to go with the flow, I created the stress-free teaching planning guide, and it taught the 7 steps of how you make sure that you are minding your business, standing in your lane, looking at the resources that you have, whether that's with you or another teacher down the hall, and creating these systematic approaches that you go forward with every day, no matter what comes. No matter what comes, you'll still be able to hit and check all the boxes, even though you may have 12 boxes over here. What do I need? I always have that toolkit, right? Have that
Yeah.
toolkit. If I need to go and look in this for this, I got a kid. I don't really know all the things in their IEP. Okay, but I have a toolkit that I can go in and reach in there, whether that's another teacher as a resource, or I have some resources that I learned throughout the years that can help me build a relationship with this person, or the resources that's in the building. So to me, in my
Yeah.
experience, I feel that everything is circular. It all connects. Just
Yes.
how much of a length does is one gonna take up? Because if your energy is going in one, it may take the whole circle and you got like two of them, you know. I hope I'm making the visual where you can understand it. But it's really what we allow to have the most, um, not control. I don't want to use the word control, but it's the energy that we're giving to whatever it is that we've been called to do in that moment. Knowing how to adjust and
Yes.
be flexible. We say that a lot, right? Do we know
We do.
to do it, right? So,
That's good. Um, it makes me think, or so I think in pictures a lot. And so what I think of is, when I moved into this home, um, we packed up, this big old U-Haul. I got the big one. And the funny part is when I drove it back to our house, it was trash day at our house. So the trucks and the trash cans were on the road, and our road was narrow. I got this big old truck trying to navigate and trying to get into our driveway. It was crazy.
mhm,
Um, I may or may not have harmed some shrubbery trying to get it into my driveway. But anyway, we packed up the U-Haul. We moved to the new home and we start to unpack everything. We not unpack, but unload everything into its appropriate rooms.
mhm,
But we did not unpack every single box. What we did was prioritize what is it that we need for this moment.
yeah,
And we started to prioritize what rooms needed to gain our energy right now so that
yeah,
because we had a long-term plan in place. We're staying here. This is where we live.
mhm,
What do I need right now? And in the same way, I would commend to our those listening, you're going to get a lot of boxes that are going to be unloaded and placed into your proverbial teacher home. Prioritize what it is that you need in the moment. What is it that you need now? What do you need to devote your energy towards now? And the things that you are lacking, the things that you may not have, the things that you do not understand, you do not need to devote 110% energy there. There's a community around you. There's leaders around you. There's folks on Instagram, Teachergram, and the like that are more than willing to pour into those areas. And I just hope that we could almost have a build our teacher capacity by looking down the line and saying, okay, let me prioritize what boxes I need to unpack right now. Does that make
yeah.
sense?
Yes, absolutely. I love it. I mean, I'm definitely going to use that analogy somewhere, somehow, I'm sure. And just looking at what do
By
I
all
need
means.
in this moment. And I think that with, you said building that teacher capacity,
Yeah.
and my heart is always for new teachers because when I say I love the profession, I still wake up every single day. Going into work on Thursday, someone said, I mean, you are just you walk in here, you're just so happy. Like I said, I'm really blessed. I figured this out early, and I'm so blessed. I've had so many other opportunities that come to me, and
Yeah.
always known what my place was, right? And just been like,
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, I could I do it? 100%. You'll be like, no, she's good at that too. And that's just because I know that whatever my hands touch, it is going to turn golden. And that's just a blessing and favor that's on my life. However, I know my role and my calling in the lane that I'm supposed to be in. And
Mm.
when you know that, I think that teacher capacity comes, especially as a new teacher, it comes in time, right? It comes,
Yes.
just knowing what to, you have that sponge and that water and everything that or information that's coming, how much, are we going to absorb? And when we get to the place that we are ready, That's that mentorship is so important. You have to know when you're ready to absorb, because I think in those first 3 to 5 years it's so important to just observe, do the things. Understand, as a teacher, every day you get a new start. That's the beautiful thing
Absolutely.
about teaching. And that every year we get a new start, but every day we get a new start. Oh, it didn't work today. Oh, guess what? I get to do it tomorrow. Woo-woo, you know. But in
Yeah.
that, observing but not absorbing. And in that, what is supposed to stay in that sponge, what is supposed to stay in that inner core, it stays. It
Yeah.
becomes a part of you. And just making sure that it is the part that makes you be your best version, right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's the inner work.
And when to your point, when you are a newer teacher, there is a temptation in the midst of the frustration that you might feel,
Mhm.
um, the things that that you don't know yet, the perceived or even realized deficiencies in leadership and systems and programming that you might see to
Yeah,
get bitter, and
yeah,
then to align yourself with a group of teachers who are good for critiquing systems, good for critiquing things that are lacking, but not necessarily good for stepping up to saying, let's fix it, let's make it
yeah,
better because kids deserve it. And so you have a choice in that frustration. Are you going to get bitter or are you going to get better?
yeah,
And the question about that, or the realization that I hope is, we can critique it all. We're good for it. We can see where things are lacking, where things are struggling. We're good for that. My question then becomes, and listen, this may not even be your responsibility, so I'm not saying put it all on your shoulders, but what I am saying is assess where things are, understand your role may be complicit in, or you may need to step up to make things better if it's in your power, control, whatever have you. But if we just step back,
mhm,
observe, critique,
mhm.
then who is harmed? We still gonna get our check. But the babies that get to go to our schools, that have to come to our schools every day, may not ever get all that they need because we're so busy critiquing and not stepping up to serve. And so I hope we don't just like resonate with the bitterness that may reside in our in the teacher lounge or wherever, that we actually understand our growth, understand the long-term plan so that we can begin to get better. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And it to, you know, connect to what you're saying, and then even think about the longevity of, education and staying in the field for a long time.
Yeah.
We know the impact of the pandemic and COVID and all the things.
Yes.
We talk about the great resignation, and we share about all of the negative things that happen with the pandemic and the teacher shortage. But
Yep.
I would I would ask for teachers that listen to this, or just teachers that come across just this little part,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
think about, or it, let's say admin, because I don't think teachers think about it. They know, the ones that's there, they know this. Admin and teachers in leadership and central, whatever, it's a blessing, because the ones that ain't supposed to be there gone.
Mm,
It was
mm, yeah. Yeah.
and the ones that needed to leave to get that break to come back energized and become their best version, guess what they're going through right now? So it was like a, to me, and what I've experienced in talking to teachers that have left, and talking to so many that have left, that said, I'm coming back. I needed a break. I'm
Yeah.
coming back. It was just some things that I knew that me and where I'm at, I don't have the capacity to give. And I honored them. And I actually celebrated one not too long ago and said, the fact that you knew to do that, like the
Yeah.
fact that you got to a place that you were brave enough to do that, because that's hard. Even though a lot of people, they shame people for doing the different things. You know how we are in education and all the things. But to admin educators that are at that place where people are saying, I don't want to do that. I I have so much respect for admin that say, "Go ahead, do what you got to do." I was in a situation, and I felt like I was being held. I was like, I don't want to be here anymore,
Mm,
and it had nothing to do with anybody. I was going through personal things, right? And so I was just like, I don't want. It's making me bitter, but I'm like, I'm having to fight through. But I needed to go through that to be able to make this comment. to be able to make this statement and say it's okay if you have to go through this journey of figuring it out, because we're all in this transitional place of creating our new norm and no one knows what it is. But in order for me to have to go through what I went through about a year ago and be who I am right now, oh,
Yeah.
you couldn't fool me from what I'm doing right now. I'm
Mm,
going every day, like what was said to me Thursday, happy, excited. Okay, you said change it. All right, change it. Still gonna get the love on them babies for 179 days. You just took one. You know what I mean? Um,
yeah.
it's another way of looking at it. I know we can look at it in a way where, oh man, but that's
Yeah,
life.
absolutely.
We have frustrations. Life be like that.
I I love uh that perspective. You know, when I first moved into this home, my next door neighbor has like the best grass on our street, like the best grass. I inherited a yard that did not look up to the standard that my neighbors did, and I'm sitting there looking at it like, I can't exist. Like I don't want this to. So I start working on the grass. I'm looking at the weeds and whatnot, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's weeds growing here, there, and if I focused on the weeds, I'd be treating the thing that I don't want to exist instead of building the thing that I did want, which was grass.
Good.
So I changed and started planting more grass seed,
Mm-hmm.
nourishing the soil. And once I started doing that, more grass would grow and basically choke out the weeds. And I say that to say that we tend to look at the weeds in the grass of education all the time, and we fixate on them. And what I get the honor and privilege of serving teachers and nourishing the soil of education so that more grass can grow. So yeah, there's weeds. Absolutely. But I got weeds in my grass right now. But you know what people don't say anymore? They don't notice that because I grew enough grass where the weeds aren't necessarily as visible.
Yeah.
And so I hope that we step into that lane where we can look at things and then say, all right, what is it that I want to exist? What is the canvas I'm trying to paint? What is the thing I'm trying to build? Versus let me fixate on the things that's not there or that are lacking. And when we do that, I think we then create the environment where folks who honored themselves and honored their capacity to step away for a minute can come back to something and say, oh, wait a minute. I see that grass. Oh, matter of fact, let me help you. I know how to do this now that I've had that time, right? We got to create the conditions that people want to step in and be there versus critiquing the things that are not. And let me get my 20 years and get out of here. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good and positivity begets positivity. And,
Yeah.
whatever wherever which we very common we hear now, whatever we give energy to is what's going to grow. So, just making sure that you're filling your cup and just having that mindset. It's all that it's out here. It's all here. Like
Yeah.
where are you? Do we have off days? Do we have bad days? But overall, what is motivating you to do and make the decisions that you make and do the things that you do and just operate the way you operate when you're relating and interacting with other people. Um, it's such a beautiful journey when you get to that place
Yeah.
to see it and
Yeah.
embrace it. So,
That's good.
another piece that I have is protecting your wholeness. And it was, throughout my therapy, I'm a teacher at heart. I'm a teacher. My master's is in curriculum and instruction. I'm going to create something. She can tell me all the things. She tell me all the process, all the exercises to do. I'm going to create something because that's the way my mind works. I'm going to create a framework, right? And protecting your wholeness, I created a framework. I'm not a therapist by any means, but the way that you organize your thoughts, the way that you protect your wholeness and making sure that you're here when you're going through different things that may trigger you or make you feel things. That's how I created protecting your wholeness. And it's just a guide that makes sure that when I am having a moment that may take me through self-discovery that may be lacking emotional maturity, how do I get to that place that I'm also in a place that I'm able to evaluate where I'm at to get me back to that place of wholeness, right? Um,
Yeah.
so that's how all my resources have been created in the last few years. Although I still have educational curriculum, vocabulary pieces that are amazing, that really have huge impact on students that struggle in different areas of vocabulary deficiencies as well as reading stamina. Um, and so I'm just grateful for the journey, because if I was not in this field, I would not have had all these different things or experiences that I have experienced, right? So,
Absolutely. For those listening and are hearing these resources, we're going to link all of that into the show notes. So if you just scroll down from this recording, you'll see links to all the things. I want you to tap into the wonderful work that Yvette is doing, how she's serving and serving from a place of love, growth, maturity, um, and so we'll put all that stuff in the show notes. I want to ask you a couple of questions as we round out our time, and thank you so much for being here. I want
absolutely.
to ask you if you had to give a piece of advice to educators entering this year, regardless of where they may find themselves, whether that be on the bitter side, the better side, or anything in between.
Mhm.
What is one thing that we need to be thinking of or being mindful of as we enter this year of education?
One of the things that I feel that you should be thinking about is, and that's a loaded question,
It
only
is.
because it depends on how you view what I'm about to say.
Okay.
So if you don't know what true love is and what true agape love is, or what unconditional looks like, because depending on how your upbringing is or your culture, this
Yeah.
statement can be looked at differently, right? But
Hmm.
if we could hold on to what I'm about to say, and keep this in the forefront, and that is bring love back to education. I shared that.
Yes.
Principal Ross shared this at a conference. I think it was Get Your Teacher On. Forgive me if I don't
Yeah.
know all the details, but he shared it. He was on the platform and he said, just bring love back to education. And if that was the clip. And I said,
Yeah.
my God, it spoke to my spirit, man, because although we operate in love, although we operate, just by you getting up every day showing up to work is a form of love, right?
Yep.
Although you are doing the things, the task that's asked of you, however you do that task, if you operate out of love, meaning I'm giving it in a way that I would want it to be given to me, being that
Yep.
person that I needed when I was the age of wherever it is that I am offering the service. So if I am an admin when I was a teacher, then what did I need when I was a teacher? If I am a teacher and I'm serving elementary school students, what did I need as an elementary school student? If I'm a counselor, what did I need when I needed a counselor while I was in school? Coming from that place, the inner work, that love, unconditional love, not caring about how or why they got to the place of the deficiency, thinking about that will help create such a evolution and a safe place for learning, a healing
Yep.
place for learning for the adults and
Yep.
the children. We do
Yeah.
things with conditions, then everything becomes conditional. Meaning, we know if that condition is not met, then if the environment, the standard, the expectation, everything changes because everything is conditional. When we have that unconditional mindset of love, operating out of love, that means that we come into a place of no matter what, I am going to make sure that you feel safe. No matter what, I'm going to make sure that you feel healed, and that means healed in that moment. So if
Yeah.
it's a student that's having an outburst, or a student who just don't understand why the new rules or expectations are put in place, then what can I do to make sure that this student understands that? Whether that's just saying, can you just take a moment, let's not speak
Mm.
for about 30 seconds, and then I need you to answer these two questions. And once you answer these two questions, and I always, and we, coming into some times I'm actually having to change some of my words, because having the opportunity to teach our boys, I will always say, is that the kind of man you want to be when you grow up? I need you to process. I need you to slow up. I don't need you to just pop rah rah rah. I don't need you to pop off, because that's going to cause some situations out here in the street. And so when I was able to come in that approach, I'm in a different environment now. So I'll say, hey, that's the best choice? All right. So I'm gonna let you think about that for a moment, then I'm gonna come back so we can have a discussion to give everybody that time to process, just making sure that everybody feels safe in whatever the environment is. But what that would have been like for somebody to do that for me as a young girl. Because I was a rah 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 ha ha ha. This happened to me, you know. You know. And I was grateful for the people that were in my life that was able to show me that it's okay to be happy about life. But look at how balanced you are when you're able to look at all perspectives, right? And
That's
so,
good. That's real
yeah.
good. You know, when we center love in education, when we center love in this work, it has it has the natural, intended, and good consequence of decentering ourselves. When we can do that, it then puts education where it should be. It should always be about the kids. It should
Yeah.
always be about the students. And that's the work that we are called to. I hope our listeners hear that from you because, you know, we talk about building capacity. We talk about all the things that we are called to do as educators. Well, if love isn't the fuel from which we're doing it, we'll burn out real quick. And so
Yeah.
I appreciate that word. Um, I want to give you space here for those who are listening and want to tap into your work and support you. And y'all better go ahead and support this queen. Um, how can they touch base with you, connect with your work, and support you?
Well, Instagram. I am on Instagram and TikTok. Teacher Coach Series. So, Teacher Coach Series, which is the name of my organization, Teacher Coach Series LLC. Um, and I'm also on YouTube, Teacher Coach Series TV. All of those have the links to my website, which is teachercoachseries.weebly.com, which will take you right to the links of the resources that I offer. One of the main things that I would hope in making the connections or the collaborations that come is making sure that the message of identifying who you are, identifying your why is always going to be the core of any of the things that you do. When we talk about
Mm,
bringing people back into the classroom, we talk about making sure that we meet the expectations and standards, whatever it is that you're called to do, whatever role you're in. If we have not identified and worked towards becoming our best versions, even if you don't know what that looks like, when you begin to work towards it, the opportunities and the exposure will make its way to you to develop you into who you're called to be. It is not an easy journey. It is not something that will come overnight. It is something that you will have to revisit, overlap, and revisit again. But
mhm,
you will get into the place that it becomes a habit, a desire to want to do the work every single day. And having those educators connect and interact together will help to develop more educators to become and develop and evolve into this new role. Because I say it's a new role, especially after the pandemic. The new role of what educators are called to do. We are no longer thinking about the standards in the curriculum. Will we do it? Yes. But what God has called us to do every single day with these children that we are raising up to be who they need to be in the next generation is way bigger than a sheet of paper that we have to meet the checklist to. And when you really know why you're called in there, you're going to do all the things on the paper. That's what we do. But when you know what you truly are doing, just having those interactions with those babies every single day, you'll walk in gratitude and a heart to just say, God, thank you for choosing me. So,
mm. I can think of no better place to end our time. Let's walk in gratitude, center love, and build our capacity so this coming generation can benefit from it all.
amen.
Thank you so much, Yvette. Thank you so much for your time. And
Thank
thank you for
you.
being here with the Liberation Lab community. We appreciate it.
Thank you.